because an awful lot of legal work can be very tedious. It's not as exciting.
Be able to achieve the things I'd like to in the future. Served in America.
Sigurno ste 1000 puta pomislili šta to uspešni ljudi rade drugačije. Verovatno i sada mislite kako su oni imali više sreće nego vi. Ako planirate da nastavite tako da razmišljate, verovatno ste u pravu. Ali ako birate uspeh, moramo da krenemo na posao. Mnogi ljudi žele da postanu uspešni, ali biti uspešan ne znači uvek biti srećan. Krenimo od vašeg ličnog iskustva. Recimo da vas zanima gluma ili ples. Svetlosti reflektora, publika koja kliče i aplaudira. I onda nekako vi postanete direktor uspešne kompanije koja se bavi softverima. Da, mogli bismo reći da ste uspešni, ali da li ste ostvarili vaš san? Svako može biti uspešan u svom poslu, bilo da je u pitanju dobitnik Nobelove nagrade ili korporacijski bilioner ili najbolji frizer u svojoj smeni. Ali šta je ono u čemu zaista želite da uspete? Da biste ostvarili vaš san, morate ga najpre imati. Morate imati misiju. O tome razgovaramo danas. Jedan moj prijatelj je kao mali poželeo da svira klavir. Ali baba i deda su mu kupili harmoniku uz objašnjenje dirke su dirke. Ne znam šta bi bilo da su mu kupili gitaru, ali također ne znam šta bi bilo da su mu zaista kupili klavir. Pravilo broj 1. Otkrijte tačno šta vas zanima u životu i ne pristajte na manje. Jednom uspešnom čoveku njegova majka je rekla: ako postaneš vojnik, budi general. Ako postaneš sveštenik, završi kao papa. On ju je poslušao, bio je slikar i postao je Picasso. Većini ljudi je dovoljno da rade. Nekima je dovoljno da rade i dobro zarađuju. Manjem broju je dovoljno da dobro rade i dobro zarađuju, a samo pojedinci teže ka tome da dobro rade i dobro zarađuju i to u poslu koji zaista vole. Najpre otkrijte šta je vaša životna misija, ono što vas pokreće i čini vas živim. Onda izvucite ruke iz džepova, zasucite rukave, a mi ćemo vam u ovoj, kao i naravnoj emisiji, otkriti kako da uspete u tome. Jer vi birate uspeh, a mi smo tu da vam otkrijemo kako do njega. U ovoj emisiji predstavit ću vam takvog jednog pojedinca. Čoveka koji je do svog uspeha stigao tako što je imao misiju i strasti da je sledi. Walt Bogdanić. Walt Bogdanić je rođen u srpskoj radničkoj porodici. Iako nije znao srpski jezik kojim se oko njega pričalo, upijao je ono što je najvažnije, a što se kasnije pokazalo kao presudno za njegov životni put – strast. Rođen je u jednom od najopasnijih krajeva Čikaga. Veoma rano se susreo sa pojmom nepravde. Na njegovom prvom poslu, koji je radio još kao dete, ubijeno je 3 ljudi, a da niko nije to objavio. Tada se zapitao zašto. I tako su počele godine velikih pitanja i pronalaženja strašnih odgovora. Tako je počela njegova misija.
I'm an investigative reporter. It's something I've done for more than 30 years on television, at multiple newspapers. How I ended up becoming an investigative reporter is an interesting story. I never imagined as a child that I would end up doing what I'm doing now. I had an interest in politics and government and democracy, and pretty much as a result of my father, who very much loved our founding fathers and the principles on which this country was founded. And I guess, you know, probably because of him, I took a big interest in current affairs. And when I was in college, I got an opportunity to work on the campus paper. The reason I became an investigative reporter also is because of the nature of my personality. In other words, I see things that are wrong, and I want to try and right them. I want to fix problems. I want to help people that are being pushed around by, in an unjust way, by powerful corporations or by bullies or whatever. I mean, that's one role of an investigative reporter. And so, you know, to do that, though, you need to have a certain quality in your personality and your character. And that most important quality is what I call a low threshold of indignation. There are many reporters who can look at something, look at a situation, and say, well, that's not right, and then turn away and walk on. I can't do that. When I see something that's not right, it makes me, and what I mean by not right, when I see people being taken advantage of, defenseless people being harmed, there's something in me that wants to challenge that. I believe if you tell people the truth and produce the evidence that shows that, you know, people or corporations have been behaving improperly, that the change will come, reform will come. And so that's what I do, and that's what keeps me passionate about my job.
Bogdanićeva misija je da uporno pita i neprestano traži odgovore. I on se u tome osjeća kao u svojoj koži. Većina vas se, kada naiđe na teško pitanje, trudi sa istim žarom da pronađe odgovor. Ali odgovor na pitanje kako iskočiti iz svoje kože. Zato pronađite ono što vas zanima i težite ka tome, umjesto da postanete bravar samo zato što u vašem komšiluku ima mnogo lopova.
That passionate nature also comes from, I think, to large measure, you know, my upbringing, my Serbian heritage and my family and relatives. I grew up in a household where Serbian was spoken. I do not speak it myself. I was the youngest, and I guess that was my act of rebellion not to learn that. But it was part of church, of my community. Serbian people are extraordinarily kind, and that I knew. I didn't need to know the language to understand that. But they're also passionate in many different ways, in helping people, in music, and it was just, it's part of who I am. My father sang in the choir, my brother sang in the choir. I was raised, you know, among Serbs who were outstanding citizens and good friends and caring. And so that also shapes a large part of who I am and the reason that I do what I do. It has not always been a journey that has not been without its difficulties. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, no job is without, you know, bumps in the road. I certainly had mine. There were a series of stories I did on television that resulted in a, you know, multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against me, brought against me by Philip Morris, the big cigarette maker. We were the first ones to report about how nicotine was manipulated in the manufacturing of cigarettes to addict smokers, and that this giant corporation, giant international corporation, had been lying about what it does. Well, they didn't like that. And they decided to try and intimidate me and the rest of the media in this country and around the world by filing a $10 billion lawsuit against me. And I think they knew I didn't have $10 billion. But it was all show, and it was a big act, and it was an attempted intimidation. That doesn't mean that it was something I could just ignore or flick off. No, this was serious business. And I had a protracted defense and lawsuit, and it was something I would much rather have avoided. But in the end, we the truth came out, and they may have filed a $10 billion lawsuit against me. They didn't get a penny from me, I can tell you that. And in the end, they ended up having to pay more than $200 billion to settle various legal claims against them that were brought in the aftermath of my story. So good does not always triumph over bad. It does enough to keep me doing what I do, and I love it. I mean, I'm 62 years old. I've worked the last 4 weekends because, not because I have to, but because I love what I do. I love it. I mean, still, after all these years. Doesn't mean I don't get in fights and get angry at my editors and at the paper or have my frustrations, but I feel really, really blessed to have found something that I love to do. And, it's something that I wish everyone could search out and find and have that kind of feeling and success. And if you work at it and you believe in it and you are really passionate about it, you'll make it. Trouble's everywhere, but you can overcome it with the help of your family, friends, and your own, backbone. Good things will result.
Bogdanić je uspeo i radi ono što voli. Ali većina vas ne zna šta da poželi čak ni kada baca novčić u fontanu. Pa ni tada sigurno nećete poželiti 100 dinara jer je to lako stvarivo. Poželit ćete 1.000.000. E pa tako postupajte i sa svojim ciljevima. Bogdanićev cilj je istina, a vaš je, pretpostavljam, novac. Ali imajte na umu da su i istina i novac slične kategorije. Koliko god da ih jurite, nikad vam neće biti dovoljno.
One of the things that I'm very proud of is that over the years I've been awarded 3 Pulitzer Prizes. In this country, that's a pretty big deal. I try not to let it go to my head, but I am proud of it. And they were for 3 very different investigations that I have done. One of them was an investigation of faulty medical laboratories and that they were producing tests, medical tests, that were faulty, and people were being harmed and in some cases dying as a result of it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a PhD, pathologist. All I am is a journalist. And people at the beginning of projects like this, they'll say, well, how can you do that? You don't know this subject. What I do know is that how to ask questions. And that's what we do for a living here. We ask questions, and we ask them over and over and over again until we understand them, until we find someone who can explain it to us. I also have developed a specialty in public records and documents, and that's how I go about trying to document these stories. My last Pulitzer was for toxic pharmaceutical ingredients that China was shipping around the world. You might ask, how did I come up with that story sitting in New York? Well, that's also a good question. I had heard that people were dying in Central America from some poison that was in medicine. And I knew enough about Chinese pharmaceutical industry that it was very unregulated and that they were increasingly growing to dominate the world pharmaceutical supply market. And I wondered whether that poisonous medicine in Panama, whether that in part was produced by some substandard factory in China. China wouldn't let me in. they did a research. They researched my background, and that's what Google is these days. They looked up and they quickly realized that I had done an earlier story on television that did not cast Chinese government in a particularly good light. And they delayed me and delayed me and delayed me. But some people might have walked away from it at that point. But I didn't. I knew it was an important story to do, and I just figured that if I worked hard enough and thought enough about this, that I would find a way to get access to these Chinese companies that were selling these unregulated supplies. And I did. And I found out, for instance, that there was this big international conference in Milan, Italy, where there were 500 Chinese companies that were trying to sell their pharmaceutical supplies on the world market. They didn't know, I mean, reporters never cover these big events. And it's just a conference convention where there were 25,000 people there, but there weren't journalists there. And I heard about it and I went. And they asked me, why am I there? I said, I think this is an interesting gathering. I want to ask some questions. And what this event allowed me to do was to confront, to talk to these companies from China that were not regulated. They were chemical companies. They might be making fertilizer and pesticides and poisons one day, and they're making pharmaceutical goods that people consume that are supposed to, make sick people well. Well, that was a case of me just sticking with it and persevering and figuring out a way to get this story done. I also found someone in China that was very reliable and trustworthy, and he helped me report the story. So that's an example of how I won my third Pulitzer. These aren't easy stories to do. I work on them for sometimes more than a year. There aren't many newspapers in this country or anywhere in the world that will allow reporters to work on a story for a year or more. This one will, for certain people, and I think the New York Times recognizes that I work really hard, and at the end of the day, I deliver. I mean, I produce stories that matter, that have good results, help people. That's part of our mandate to do that kind of work here. Investigative reporting should be alive and well in every democracy. And I hope that it takes root in Serbia and grows and tries to assert itself in that democracy, because everyone will benefit from an aggressive press. As we say here at the New York Times, to go about reporting without fear or favor. That is the goal of journalists, and that's certainly my goal, and I've been lucky to work for organizations that have let me pursue my passion, investigative reporting.
I Bogdanić sigurno ne ilazi na ćorsokake u svojim istragama, ali ne odustaje jer ima misiju. Pronađite i vi, makar krenuli pogrešnim putem. Jer je bolje krenuti i na 1000 pogrešnih puteva nego provesti život nigde samo zato što ne znate kuda želite da idete. Uostalom, ako se nikad ne izgubite, možda se nikad nećete ni naći.
Well, it's commonly talked about here in this country, the American dream. Well, what is that? What does that mean to me? Have I achieved that? You could be successful in life and not achieve your dreams. I mean, there are people out there on Wall Street that are cheating people and making a lot of money. But that isn't the American dream. It shouldn't be the American dream. My American dream is that, and that I have achieved, is that I found something I love to do. And And I'm proud of what I do, very proud of what I do. I am proud to tell my children what I do. I'm proud to set an example for them that here is a guy who is trying to do his best to leave his mark on this world of ours, on this country of ours, in a positive way. I'm not the smartest guy around. I'm not holier than thou. I mean, I'm just somebody who grew up in Gary, Indiana, son of a steel worker, who, you know, found something he loved to do, and through hard work and pretty much making my own luck, I was able to achieve that. That dream is not, they call it the American dream, it could be the Serbian dream too. It's a dream of that everyone ought to be able to pursue. And that's just believing in yourself, not being defeated. I know that there are serious economic issues in Serbia now with high unemployment. It's a country that is finding itself. And I would just encourage everybody looking in to rely on all the wonderful elements that make Serbs the great people that they are. Compassionate, you know, hardworking, caring, care about their families, care about their communities. And through hard work and in individual accomplishment, good things will result. And I hope that journalistically, since that's an area that I know most about, that there is an aggressive community of reporters, journalists out there who will look in and hear this and say, you know what, that's something I want to do, and I want to do it better. And there are ways to get better. I mean, I didn't wake up and suddenly know how to do this job. I went to conferences, I studied it, I learned it, I found the best people in the country who did it, who I admired, I questioned them, I learned from them. And that's what you have to do. If in whatever walk of life, whatever profession, whatever line of work you're in, is to find the people who are doing it right, learn from them, and then go out and do it yourself, because you can.
To je bila priča o Waltu Bogdaniću, čoveku koji je shvatio da je svrha života pronaći svoju sopstvenu svrhu i posvetiti joj celog sebe. Walt je postao to što je danas, jedan od najboljih istraživačkih novinara na celom engleskom govornom području i jedini novinar u Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama koji je dobio čak 3 Pulitzerove nagrade. Čovek sa misijom. Ono što se nadam da ste danas shvatili jeste da ako nemate san, ne možete ga ni ostvariti. Ako ga imate, onda možemo da nastavimo dalje ka vašem uspehu. Jedan mudrac je jednom rekao da smo mi već danas ono što ćemo biti sutra. Zato ne ostavljajte ništa za sutra, jer sigurno ne biste hteli da sutra budete onaj koji juče nije uradio ništa. Do sljedećeg puta posvetite se vašoj misiji i držite se nje. A sada na posao. Izaberite uspeh.